Good evening and welcome to Daily Politics, your destination for in-depth analysis on politics, policy and governance. I am Shafiu Suleiman. Tonight, we examine the fallout of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State, a move that has sparked intense debate over its legality and political implications. A coalition of opposition leaders led by former Vice President Atiku Abubakar strongly condemned what they describe as an unconstitutional power grab by the APC using emergency rule as a tool of political control. They call on the National Assembly and the judiciary to intervene and halt the move. However, in a swift turn of events, both chambers of the National Assembly, despite nearly 50% opposition representation, gave their approval through a voice vote, effectively endorsing the President's decision and rejecting calls for reversal. Meanwhile, the sole administrator appointed by President Tinubu has officially assumed the office, tasked with restoring stability and governance in the oil-rich state. On Daily Politics tonight, we'll be engaging with Paul Ibe, that is spokesperson for former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, and Dr. Moses Paul, a political affairs analyst, to dissect the legal and political ramifications of this emergency proclamation. We'll also be joined via Zoom by Dr. Ken Robinson, former spokesperson of the Pan Niger Delta Forum, PANDEF, for further insights into the regional impact of this decision. Gentlemen, thank you for joining the conversation. Dr. Paul Moses, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you, Zafir.
We appreciate you. So viewers, that's our talking point tonight, and we'll dive deep into the conversation right away. Dr. Moses, I'm sure you've been following development in the polity, especially in respect to the emergency rule in Rivers State. I don't know whether you are part of the gathering of opposition figures today in Abuja. I suppose you are part of that.
I was there.
No, great. Okay, and then you also saw what happened, thereafter. I understand the main reason behind that interface or that engagement was to get the National Assembly to reverse the decision of Mr. President. But then hours later, you saw what happened. Did it come to you as a surprise?
Yeah, I mean, you never get used to, maybe for me, it did still come as a surprise. And I'll tell you the reason why. Because I can never get used to what is wrong.
Okay.
I've lived all my life in Nigeria, from primary school to PhD. I'm approaching, what do you call the fifth
Jubilee? Is it Silver Jubilee?
Yeah, and I just can't get used to evil. I can't get used to throwing trash on the street. I can't get used to vote buying. I can't get used to rigging. I can't get used to breaking street lights. I can't get used to insulting elders. I can't get used to things that are supposed to be norms and values. And so, following the incidents, shortly after we left the press conference, and we heard the news, in the words of Mr. Peter Obi, we were still agonizing, with...
For how long will you continue to be agonizing?
Just with the happenings, because you can see very clearly. And Sophie, let me tell you, also because in any society around the world, and I've been opportune to have traveled many places across the globe, and so the baseline for any community, for any society, for any country, for any nation has to do with law and order. And when you talk about law and order, you're looking at the policing system, you're looking at the security in terms of military, and then you're looking at the court system or the judiciary.
Rule of law.
Rule of law.
Respect for the rule of law.
That is the baseline. Whether people are is the baseline. Whether people are hungry, whatever it is that is happening, the baseline is what? The rule of law, because every other thing falls on this. And we have watched from 2023 general election, where through technicalities, through brigandage of, whipping people in Lagos in the polling booths and shooting people in River State and burning people in Kano, with all kinds of things across the country, and then technicalities of Abuja, whether it's a state or not a state. I mean, we have moved from there to the place where we are right now, and you just continue to hope that maybe sometimes you think you will wake up from this dream of the unrealistic things that are happening, and so you keep on pushing and hoping that something will give, because these are constitutional issues, and you're looking at completely desecrating, because this is like the Quran or the Bible of Nigeria. This is our constitution, and these things are very clear.
The ground norm.
When you look at the 305 2, and then you look at 6B in the Constitution, how a governor can be removed, how you can bring state of emergency. These things are clearly there. And then when they are completely removed, the shock was that the people who are there to represent the grassroots is the people from the National Assembly. These are the senators,
representatives of the people. Okay.
People. Now, so it was a shock to see that.
But going by the antecedent, of the National Assembly, so to speak, many didn't see it as surprising, because they've seen the trajectory, how the National Assembly almost endorsed everything that the executive branch, presents to them, from the, even take a look at the recent, tax reform bills and how they generated a lot of uproar and all of that. But in all of that, even though, there are some modifications and so on, but in the end, they were passed, by the National Assembly. Now, but one thing that was strange, to many was the fact that the endorsement, came barely hours after, the opposition leaders like you, and quite a number of them, including former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, were pleading with the National Assembly. I've had former Kaduna State Governor Nasir Rufai, saying that at least for once, let the National Assembly, side with the people. But then we see an overwhelming endorsement, no naysayers. What does this speak, in terms of the democratic representation that we are talking about?
There is no democracy here because there's no representation of the people. We saw when the midnight while we were sleeping, that's when the president was declared by INEC. And now we're seeing just at the time where we're just leaving a press conference, Nigerians are caught off guard, and they didn't even go through the legal measures through which, 2/3 of the people could actually, they say, oh, nay, and
past the expectation. Quite a number of people expected that there should have been this digital voting where everyone, the numbers will show, and then everyone will identify
with the numbers. These are clear, simple things that should have been done. Again, like I said, maybe because I'm a believer in the Nigerian project, I keep hoping that maybe someday something will happen. Up until now, I have goosebumps when I talk about Nigeria across the world, so I can get used to it. But I'll tell you something, they are helping us. The change that Nigeria is going to have is going to be total. Okay. Because these people have shown that they are the enemies of Nigeria, that they do not respect the sanctity of the rule of law.
But they are elected by the people to, legitimately to go and represent.
And this is why, again, I'm going to be calling on my own people, because they've shown us very clearly that we do not mean anything to them.
Yeah, I've actually come into that, because looking at the numbers, it's almost 50-50, so to speak. Opposition has quite, a large number in both chambers. In the Senate, for instance, APC has 58. And while the opposition in total have 50, and in the House of Reps they are even higher in terms of numbers, because the APC, the APC has. The APC has 182, while the opposition, opposition has 182, while the APC has 175. So if you look at it, It's almost 50-50.
That's right.
Yeah, but unfortunately, in spite of these numbers, there hasn't been any resistance, so to speak. So what does this say about, the opposition politics in Nigeria? Some are beginning to see Nigeria tilting towards one-party state.
It's not tilting. We are already in a one-party state. This is exactly what you saw today. Today is symbolic for a one-party state. This is what you have seen. And allegedly, the current Senate president is christened with the remark of saying that what money cannot do, more money can do.
I say it also, applies here. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, we're saying it, and the people that we have sent there, we're going to be asking them, because right now they have denigrated, suppressed, rejected, they've abused us. This is what they've done. They've said we mean nothing to them. And the only thing left right now is for the people of Nigeria to respond. Unfortunately, we live at a time where the people are so afraid. Poverty has been so weaponized that people, and of course, that majority of Nigeria in this context are not very educated because we don't even know the law. Nigerians are afraid. Many people will get into the place where a lot more people, dissenting voices, are going to be choked as we go, and that fear, these are the symptoms of a one-party state. When we're seeing a state capture characterization in full, daylight. This is what we're seeing in Nigeria today.
Yeah, if you talk about the citizens being afraid perhaps to speak up or speak out, what would you say about the representatives of the people who primarily they are there to represent the people, and quite a number of them, including those who, you see as being vocal, today were silent. Quite a number were also not even at the session, perhaps wouldn't want their faces, but then whatever, that is taken to the National Assembly has passed. So how would they exonerate themselves or, remove themselves from the entire approval, if you like?
Yeah, I mean, there is no, they're already caught in the web, of course. While we speak about this, I'm trying to remember his name, one of the Labour Party senators actually spoke out, in the House, and he made headlines where he said, no, we have to, I think in
they get it 2/3?
Yes, 2/3, and he spoke out. So
former governor of Bayelsa State also said so.
So you have those, very few voices there, but largely what we have today is a complete collapse of democracy, because what we have today, this is not democracy. For whatever it's worth, I mean, even if at the end of the day they're going to pass, there is need for balance. Life is about balance. What keeps a nation, a community, and a people going is balance. But what you see here today is a completely an erosion of balance. And I tell you, what is even more dangerous is the fact that it's beginning to affect the psyche of our people. Our values are completely thrown to the ground, where I feel so sorry for our generation. And this is what has given birth to a generation of people who do not know what is wrong from what is right. Because where you are used to vote buying, you are used to, till today, we still do not know, we still don't have answers to our president's primary school, secondary school. I mean, when we talk about this, and people say,
some would say that has been put to rest, by the courts, yes, you've gone through all the.
By tomorrow, this will be put to rest. This is what we're saying. When root causes are not addressed, we keep sweeping things and going. As we speak today, while I was coming in, one of the people that were kidnapped were being beaten. Today we're sitting in studios. There are people in bushes in Nigeria. We sweep all of that. They pad the budget. We sweep all of that. The brigandage continue. We've moved from rivers now. We're going to move to another state. We keep until the day where you will have lost everything completely in Nigeria.
That's we don't hope to get to that stage. Perhaps some things would have to give way, and then certain things have to be done the right way. But then I understand we have to join Dr. Ken Robinson, that is the former spokesperson of PANDEF. PANDEF is Pan Northern and Pan Niger Delta Forum. is joining us from Port Harcourt, the River State capital. Thank you for joining, Dr. Ken. Are you there? Okay, I think you need to enable your audio. If you can hear me, you need to enable your audio. Okay, while he does that.
Thank you, I can hear you.
Okay, it's good to have you on the platform tonight.
Wonderful to have you too, and greetings to your viewers.
Right. Okay, bring us up to speed with what is happening right now in River State. Quite a number of stakeholders have, voiced their concerns and positions on this. What is the position of stakeholders like the PANDEF in respect to this emergency rule in River State? Do you think it is necessary at this point in time?
Let me clarify, I'm not speaking on behalf of PANDEF. I used to speak for PANDEF. Now my tenure expired. I am ex-spokesperson, but I am a committed, patriotic Rivers man. I am convener of the concerned citizens of River State. And I can tell you that things are normal in Port Harcourt and other cities and other local government areas and communities in River State. People are going about their normal businesses. This morning, I took a walk around Port Harcourt, drove around town, and I saw women by the street corners doing their normal business. Bus drivers, taxi drivers, markets are open. Everything is normal in Port Harcourt.
But the picture, we're getting at the national level, or quite a number of Nigerians are getting, is that there is tension in rivers. There are concerns around, attacks on oil facilities and so on, going by the few attacks that were registered before the emergency rule and all of that. Do you think these things are being exaggerated? And for what reason? No,
those situations were real. We have the Niger Delta and River State in particular, as 2023, 2003, 2004, 2005, up to 2007 before late President Umaru Yar'Adua declared the amnesty program. The Niger Delta and River State in particular suffered a lot of violence. We lost several hundreds of young people. And so when this situation persisted, those concerns are there. And when the first attack on a facility was done on Sunday night, obviously people were worried and concerned. And that is why for some of us, patriotic people of River State, we commend President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for declaring the state of emergency. It has doused the tension in River State. There is now hope that normalcy and sanity will return. I will further commend the National Assembly for affirming Mr. President's proclamation. The truth of the matter is that there are people outside River State who are crying more than the bereaved. And it is unpatriotic because we are in River State. I live in Port Harcourt. I am here. I understand the situation in this place. And with what is happening now, that people are going about their normal businesses, it clearly shows that the people of River State have isolated themselves from the conflict and the crisis. It was a political conflict in a political family that was beginning to threaten the economy of River State, the stability of River State, and by extension, the economy and security of the Nigerian state. So we must urge and appeal to Nigerians, patriotic Nigerians, and of course the good people of River State, to support the measures taken by Mr. President, to support the sole administrator of River State, Vice Admiral Ibok Abbas, retired, to bring about total normalcy and eliminate the fracture. The dignity of Rivers people was being rubbished. Our heritage was being rubbished by that crisis, and it is disturbing that the National Assembly is talking about setting up a peace committee. It places a question mark on the leaders of River State, our traditional rulers, former governors, former this, former that they couldn't resolve a crisis between two of their sons, or between the governor and the members of the River State of House of Assembly, who are from communities, who are from families in River State. They are not aliens, they are not external people. And so it is a question mark on our leaders as a Rivers person that we were unable to resolve these issues. Instead, leaders in Rivers State took sides and escalated the crisis. And so it is disturbing, and we hope that this phase will never repeat itself, and that Rivers people will be able to solve their problems and not suffer this ridicule.
Dr. Ken, some will find it extremely difficult to understand your position, especially looking at the fact that we are in a democratic setup, and you seem to be, cheering, if you like, or glorifying the setting aside of political structures, and replacing them with a military administration. Is that what the Rivers people deserve? Looking at the fact that we are in a in a democratic dispensation. Other states have their governors intact, their lawmakers intact, and then governance is delivered, to their doorsteps. Didn't you think Rivers people would have loved to remain in a democratic setting rather than this military, logjam, if I should put it that way?
It's unfortunate that this is the reality, but even before President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's intervention, there was no proper governance in Rivers State. There was no House of Assembly, as it were. That's the truth, and the truth has to be said. And there was no proper governance. And the Supreme Court, in its judgment, said by their conclusion that there could not have been said to be a government in Rivers State. So this is what we have to suffer. Okay, and going forward, for some of us, this is time for self-reflection, self-reevaluation, and to say that, okay, how did we get to this point? Why couldn't we solve our own problems? Why couldn't we talk to our children and resolve this matter instead of taking sides? We saw a situation where former governors and former leaders and traditional rulers were taking sides, and it's unfortunate. We should be leaders. Leadership requires and demands some level of objectivity, and we must not always be subjective to issues. We agree that this situation is unusual, and that is why those who crafted the Constitution, 1999 Constitution as amended, made provisions for situations that were not expected by including that word, extraordinary measures. When you say extraordinary, it means unusual, beyond the normal, beyond what is normal. And so extreme measures, extreme situations, demand extreme measures. And that is what Mr. President has done. And for the concerned citizens of Rivers State, we are happy that some normalcy has returned, that the anxieties and the concerns and the worries of our people have been doused, and that Nigerians, patriotic Nigerians, should accept this situation, and hopeful that within the next 6 months, even before the next 6 months, the issues arising to this will be resolved, and that normalcy and the democratic structures will be back in place in Rivers State.
Yeah. Okay, but then looking at the fact that the sole administrator has just assumed office, and then in a situation where we have a Rivers State that is polarized along ethnic, and other, lines, so much tension around, this ethnicity and so on. How do you think he can bring together the people and the confidence of the people, looking at what you said earlier, the fact that virtually all the stakeholders made comments that further polarized the people? How can he mend this? How can he bring the people together?
The Rivers people were peace-loving people. Rivers State has been we are one state. Yes, there are various ethnic nationalities in Rivers State, but we have lived together harmoniously for many years, together, intermarried. And as I speak with you, the younger generation of Rivers people are increasingly diffusing those dimensions, those divisions, and I'm sure that the Ministry Administrator, with the support of patriotic Rivers people, the good people of Rivers State, will in a very short time bring together peace-loving Rivers people and address the concerns. The truth of the matter is that what we report on the pages of newspaper, on television, is overstated. The political divisions and those who were followers and supporters of the various groups escalated the so-called divisions, but they are not real. They are not deep-seated, and I'm sure that the sole administration will not find it difficult in calling sincere Rivers people together and getting its assignment done as soon as possible.
Right. Part of the resolution of the Senate was also to set up a committee of eminent Nigerians, as you alluded earlier, to reconcile the parties in Rivers State within the period of the emergency. Looking at the intensity of this crack, if you like, how do you think the key actors can be brought, on the table to resolve this? Because even before now, there has been intervention by the president himself, which didn't work out. How do you think a committee of eminent Nigerians can be able to reconcile these key actors?
The first step is for those involved to reflect on the last 1 year, 6 months, what has happened, the roles they have played, and accept that, okay, I was wrong here, and then this person was wrong here. But let's face the fact: the governor and the assembly members. I was watching a video earlier today where I said, "Look, some of these persons are my friends. They've eaten from me. I've paid the fees of their children, school fees of their children. I've paid rent for them. So they are a family. They are people that have worked together for several years." Together with the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory. So it was an ego fight, and so even if those egos are not dismantled and not pulled down, and no matter who gets involved, no matter how eminent the external persons that get involved, the problem will not be solved. The president, met with the parties, and then an agreement was signed, and everybody was happy that that agreement was signed, but some persons were not happy that that agreement was signed. And those are people who are benefiting from the crisis. I recall that in December, on the 21st of December 2023, following the president's second intervention and the resolutions and terms of reconciliation that were signed, the concerned citizens of Rivers State issued a public statement commending Mr. President and then commending the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, the assembly members, and of course the governor of Rivers State, for submitting themselves to the intervention of Mr. President, and appeal to them to abide by the terms of the agreement. And we were verified, we were called names by persons who were interested in the crisis, who were fueling the crisis for vested interest. And so what the president has done now by declaring the state of emergency will, as it were, put away some of those interests, some of the predators and the persons who were conflict merchants that were benefiting from the crisis. Rivers State lost a lot of resources, was wasted. A lot of resources was wasted. And so what this intervention has done will put those persons away. And I believe that the governor will be clear and know that, look, this is what it is. And of course, compromises will be made. And I'm sure that then external interventions may not even be needed.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Ken Robinson, former spokesperson of PANDEF and convener concerned citizens of Rivers State. Thank you very much for bringing us up to.
Thank you so much.
With the development of Rivers State. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
All right.
God bless you.
Okay. Back in the studio, I still have Dr. Paul, Moses Paul. Thank you for your patience. You've heard, from the stakeholders in Rivers State, perhaps trying to, paint the picture of initial apprehension and tension, but with the state of emergency, things are getting back to normal. What do you make up with his submissions?
The elites in Nigeria are very evil and wicked. In a country where data has it that over 150 million Nigerians can barely eat in a day. We're going through what you call multi-dimensional poverty. I just returned back from Indonesia. They have 0 out-of-school children. Indonesia is 280 million people. 0 out-of-school children. Indonesia has achieved global health insurance scheme. You and I here don't even have that. It means that
The country is
anybody.
battling with meningitis and other, airborne diseases and so on.
You know why they can achieve that? Because state of emergency was declared on health, declared on poverty, declared on food, declared on insecurity. So they can have that.
But how many times do we hear about emergency on food security in Nigeria? And yet you're saying Nigerians are...
This is the point I'm saying, that the elites are very evil people. They can declare state of emergency and change a governor and carry out what I declare here as a coup very quickly. But they can't do that.
But this is, the president would tell you it is in line with his constitutional mandate.
The president, this is what, can we apply that to the poverty? Can we apply that to health? Can we apply that to insecurity? Can we apply that to housing? Can we apply that to the IREV so that it does not go off? Can we apply that to electoral reform? This is what we're saying.
So in other words, we are misplacing our priorities.
Our priorities are completely off the table. We just have an elite class that are very... I'm listening to an elder speaking the way he's doing and saying that some people outside river are crying more than... This is not... This is about the rule of law. We're talking about, are the National Assembly members in River State? Are the senators in River State?
Beyond River State, it's a national issue.
These are national issues. So when you hear people talk, you can hear the parochial nature in which they decide to pander in terms of, when we say, playing politics with the lives of people and Nigerians. And it can be, it's very, I can't get used to it.
But where do we start from? Because here we are initially talking about the essence of opposition politics. It's to checkmate the excesses of the ruling party, for instance. And here we are, you cannot differentiate between opposition and the ruling party.
In the House,
So where do we start from? Because the idea, Nigerians got the options to go for political parties they believe will champion their cause and all of that, and change the narrative. And here we are with
we really don't. We have political vehicles in Nigeria. We don't really have political parties with ideologies. Otherwise, you won't be having what we have here. If you look at the Republican and the Democrats, that's not the case of what we have in Nigeria. Howbeit, we have certain individuals. I've looked through the tweets, the messaging, the letter to Akpabio by Mr. Peter Obi. I've seen the comments by Atiku Abubakar. I've seen some of the people rising up and speaking directly to the issues. These are very serious issues that we're going through. And when you look at that, yes, we have to go beyond just the agonizing and anger, to really mobilizing and organizing us as opposition, to really, so that work needs to be done. And also, I'm also praying for the masses to wake up and realize that the joke is on them, that the masses in Nigeria need to go beyond the elite to understand that within the elite class, religion, politics, tribe does not play. This is just about power grabbing. And to understand, and the day the masses understand that, because I tell you what, when you go out to protest or to canvass or to do something, the elites, they all own the masses. Because it is not the rich man that comes to steal ballot boxes. Somebody owns him. So Nigeria is divided. The masses are divided. But the day they will be educated, or their consciousness will be raised to understand that it is about law and order. It is about rule. It is about protocol. It is about food. It's about us, not this divide and rule. That day, Nigerian masses will rise up. They will take what belongs to them and ensure that we have a country.
And how do they do that? Because some will say the only option they have, democratic option, is for them to, effect change through the ballot, for instance. And here we are talking about political parties lacking ideology, almost the same set of political parties, vehicles, to get there and all of that. And then talking about the same cycle of elites who are not, in any way different from each other in terms of whatever, despite the so-called fault lines, So how can, you're talking about mobilization. What hope should you give Nigerians, for instance, the citizens? What hope do they have beyond agonizing?
Yeah, I mean, right now, when you look through systems, I've traveled across, when you go to Rwanda or the US, when you go through the civil rights movement, when you go through ANC, and people who have been, like I told you the other time, what is happening in the National Assembly will help to quicken the resolve of the masses. Because as we are having these conversations, as we keep going, the masses will finally realize that these people that we send there, the agenda that they canvassed for when they were asking us to vote for them is not what they are doing right now. That consciousness will continue to be raised. It will come to a point where they cannot deceive people anymore. Right now, it looks so dark and gloomy because, of course, like I said, in Nigeria today, if you have the money, you can go out and slap anybody, go to court, and then they'll tell you, go to court, because we own the court. We own the police station. We own the ballot boxes. We own everybody. But the time is going to come where the people would revolt against that. And these are the
We're not calling for any revolt anyway.
What I mean revolt is standing with the Constitution.
Right.
Because what happens today...
Political revolution.
Yes, ballot revolution, ballot revolt, But remember even what happened in 2023, a time will come where you will vote and defend your vote because it's your constitutional right. What happened today should not happen because it's a constitutional, there are provisions. You can't break the provision and be allowed to go scot-free. You are an enemy of the country.
Right. The National Assembly was one of the hopes, that is dashed already because, they both endorsed the emergency rule.
Yeah.
And one of the caveat even that Mr. President can decide to revisit it, but not until after 6 months. That's another caveat. But then part of the demands of the coalition, opposition figures, where you belong, was also for the judiciary to rise up and perhaps checkmate, because that is the essence of separation of powers.
That's right.
The National Assembly may have failed Nigerians. What is the next option? Judiciary. Even there, quite a number of people have skepticism about, I don't know whether that could change the narrative.
Well, as it is right now, from the executive, there is no clear lines. They are just one people, including the judiciary, because I listen to all of them. They are all the same people. We only have one more option, is the people.
So you also lost confidence in the judiciary?
Well, we don't have judiciary in Nigeria.
Well, we have all the courts, from the
just like we
the
have the
lower
police
court
stations,
up to the
like
Supreme
we have
Court
the people. Yeah, I mean, but you can see what is happening.
Also, they've been interpreting, quite a number of legal issues, and that are binding. Even the crisis in rivers largely was sorted out by the Supreme Court, isn't it?
How was it sorted out by the Supreme Court?
The judgment actually that recognized those lawmakers that were said to have defected and all of that, isn't that also the fact that the judiciary is still viable?
The 27 people that defected, what is the law? They're supposed to lose their seat immediately. And this is why we're surprised that the president will give the kind of rule he did. And I don't want to get personal.
We're talking about, rule of law, and perhaps Mr. President is acting based on the judgment of the Supreme Court, for instance. He mentioned that.
And that's what I'm saying, that if that is the judgment of the Supreme Court, just like Professor Odin Kalu said, that what we have today, the lack of democracy, the crisis or whatever it is that is going on today in Rivers State is the responsibility of what? Of the Supreme Court. That's what he said, and this is news.
But court it's not Father Christmas. Perhaps someone has to initiate proceedings that would make them to determine, to interpret the law. You can't just pick up anything from the street and work on it. What is the opposition doing now to come up with perhaps suits that initiate suits that would address some of these concerns and take them to the...
like I said, I looked at somebody like Mr. Peter Obi and the opposition. They're really working. If you look at, he's been writing constantly in the last 48 hours, and he also wrote an open letter to Akpabio and all of them. And I think there are other measures, and they're also calling in on the senators and the House of Rep. This is the best we can do, because we also need to stay within the ambit of the law. You know, who knows, in the coming days, more consciousness, more awareness, more measures, you know, will be put, because honestly, you can't break the law and go scot-free. You can't break street light and just think that you can just have a free day, because this is what we have seen, you know, happening. So yes, like I said, I think more is also will be requested of the people, you know, and as we keep engaging, this is one that is not just going to go, because this is a daylight flagrant, you know, robbery of our constitution, and it is, we should not even be having this discussion.
Okay, coming back, because you also need to have some sort of reflection, you know, on the other side, talking about the opposition itself. Today we've seen what happened. You know, the former vice president is trying to galvanize what he called a coalition of opposition leaders, and you know, I haven't seen that. You know, I mean, that bite, so to speak. Quite a number of opposition leaders are not there, you know, except for a few. Even your principal, Peter, he wasn't there. So how can we galvanize such a strong, you know, a formidable opposition that is needed to checkmate some of these excesses we are talking about?
I mean, my leader was represented. I was there. The national coordinator of the Obedient movement was there. He got his ticket. We're waiting for him at the airport, and something came up. And I mean, he wasn't there. I mean, you can see his trajectory. He has not let off on education and health. He's been canvassing around the country since day one, donating money in millions, you know, building Almajiri schools, and he's been going around the country. That's, for me, is a consistency of what opposition should be, showing the people, showing governance in what it should be. Yeah, that does not remove from the place of holding people accountable, and you can see that even what happened today. I mean, for Alhaji Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi being represented, and all the other leaders, Babachir, they're all there. I mean, we were there, you know. Yes, you don't have the other political parties, but I mean, that's even big enough. What people are looking for also, you know, people, if you look at the messaging that the opposition has been given, it's been biting without mincing words. But we also have to be careful where we do not exchange rascality with holding people accountable. Because that's what Nigerians are looking for. Nigerians are saying, you know, like you hear people say, go out to the street, go and, you know, carry placards and do that. This, if, like, you know, emotions, protest without strategy is just noise making, you know. So there's a place for that, you know. And even before you take the people to the street, there is need for educating the people so they know what they are fighting for rightly. Right now, it is squarely, our issues right now is National Assembly. And the people need to call their people and ask them, why are you not representing me? This is the protest. That people,
how would they recall them? You know, one that
I mean, if you don't know and this is the issue again, not excusing the presidency, but people do not hold their governors accountable. Nigerians don't hold their senators accountable. Nigerians don't hold their House of Rep. They don't even know their chairman.
How many of such lawmakers even go back to their constituencies? And who even knows how many people knew where the offices are? You know, quite a number of them.
It is a responsibility of the people. I know.
Until after 4 years, they go back and.
Well, this is where again I tell you that Nigerians have gotten to the place where they are being so suppressed. They don't know that those people in the house are answerable to them. They're actually answerable to the people. But like I said, you think these people are docile. Something is going to give somewhere, because people like myself are going to continue to raise the value and consciousness of the people to know that your senator is working for you, is supposed to be your servant. Your House of Rep is supposed to be answerable to you. And we will continue to push on that and educate our people to hold their people accountable.
With what happens today, or what has been happening in the polity, what hope, you know, are you getting as members of the opposition, you know, even going forward, talking about 2027? Quite a number of people are saying, things that are happening today are indicative of what and where the country is heading to in terms of democratic representation, in terms of accountability and all of that. Are you worried as opposition figures that the future might be bleak somehow?
Anybody who is not worried is probably something must be wrong with you. But the flip side is also the fact that the reality is that Nigerians are hungry. The reality is that Nigerians can't move from buying fuel less than 200 to about 1,000 right now. The prices of food, you saw the youth couple lady that, got out of the house, and for the first time she's realizing, because when you're covered, when your parents are taking care of you, when somebody is paying the price, you do not realize. And what is keeping Nigeria going right now is the fact that we have a communal system where we have the sharing stuff, we share what we have. But very soon, that will finish up. And once that happens, the reality will dawn on us. And you can see even with the escalation of, right now there are certain places in Abuja that you can't even go because you drive and people are looking at you. Just having a car has become an issue in certain places. I mean, this is 21st century. This is Nigeria, for goodness sake. I mean, where we have fertile land, we have no business in any of the things that are happening right now. Meanwhile, you have people weaponizing poverty, weaponizing religion, weaponizing tribalism. These issues that keeps going, like I said, at the end of the day, yes, there is a job for the opposition party to do. They need to jack up themselves, come together, and you can see, you can see around the galvanization going on. I mean, we have been having meetings night and day, so there's a lot of opposition coalition going on. I can tell you that.
Also for power grab, because that's another major
And this
concern.
is where Mr. Peter has consistently said that it is not for power grab. Right now we can see what power grab has produced. Snatch, grab and run away. This is what we have right now. And we're saying that no, what is most important, almost like sounding like a cliche, he has become overly saying it. Education, health, pulling people out of poverty. Education, health, pulling people out of poverty. 2024 alone, he gave out personal funds, over 1.5 billion to different institutions, schools of nursing, helping. This is what it's about.
Yeah, even though it's part of the reach out, virtually all the political leaders, or rather those aspiring for positions, are also doing that.
But this is not election year. This is the point I'm making.
Right.
And when you do it during election year, you're only doing it for power grabbing. You should do it as a lifestyle.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Moses Paul, political affairs analyst, and of course, a very strong ally of the presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the 2023 elections. Thank you very much for your informed perspective.
Thank you.
And viewers, that's a wrap on today's edition of the program. Do join us tomorrow. We'll be back with another interesting topic and personalities. And unfortunately, we couldn't have Paul Ibe, perhaps for some reasons, but then we hope to have him some other time. We also appreciate our guest from Rivers talking about Dr. Ken Robinson for his engagement, for his participation on the platform. And on behalf of the technical crew, this is where we come to the end of this conversation. My name is Shafiu Suleiman. Many thanks for being there.